We want to bring you this because there's a lot popping right now in the press briefing room on this debt crisis issue. For the last 20 minutes, the White House press secretary has had to answer an angry barrage of questions from reporters over why the president isn't offering more specifics on what he wants to see in this debt deal. Here's Fox White House correspondent Ed Henry and Press Secretary Jay Carney in this exchange moments ago. Watch.
I wanted to follow on Nora because if you basically have this Boehner plan that you say can't get through the Senate, and you've got a Reid plan that the Republicans don't think can get through the Senate or the House, and you're saying we want to compromise, what was the point of giving a primetime address to the nation without an Obama plan and say neither of these other plans can work?
I understand the idea that there is not an Obama plan is like point number one.
There's not one on paper.
Is point number one on the talking points issued by the Republican Party. I get it.
No, that's not a talking point.
No.
Show us the plan. Well, it's not a talking point. That's unfair.
We have said from the beginning. First of all, the president put forward in detail his principles at George Washington University.
Right. That's not
quite a lot of detail. The president stood before you. I can't remember if you were here Friday night. Some of you weren't because you cut out early, but a lot of you were. And he put forward in detail with numbers what he's willing to do. He then referred from the podium to the fact that White House officials would be briefing in detail.
Wow. All right, that was interesting. So joined now by Leslie Marshall, syndicated radio talk show host and Fox News contributor, and Lars Larson, syndicated radio host. I'm just going through our urgent file, Leslie, and there's a lot more than what we just showed you in terms of Jay Carney and the back and forth with reporters there. But what's your reaction to just that exchange? Because there's been a lot of talk today about the president's speech last night and basically why he did it, because he wasn't moving the ball anywhere, so to speak.
Well, I think one of the reasons the president did it is he's promised to be and he's been asked by the American people to be, and promised to be a president of transparency. I think he was keeping the American people in the loop and saying this is not happening behind closed doors. Lars, be good. There's a grizzly on the loose, I hear. Bottom line is he's telling the American people, look, this is where we are. This is what's going on. This is where the impasse is. And there's still no compromise, Leslie, where they're going to step over the line and get this deal done by next week.
Here's what's very odd about that, because Harry Reid had already come out and said that he would go with, a 2-point-something trillion cut that had absolutely no revenue increases in it. So here's the leader of the president's party in Congress. He's out there saying, you know what, we're going to do a deal with no revenue cuts. And then the president gets up last night, and it's almost like he didn't hear that. And he gets up and starts talking about the fact that they need to have balance, balance, balance. He spoke about it many times in terms of, getting some revenue increases from the wealthy. Did Leslie just respond to that first, and then we're going to go to Lars?
Sure. Well, no question that Senator Reid and the president disagree on that. And I have to say, I'm with the president on this. And I know life isn't fair, and the president loves to use that word fair. But it isn't fair to ask the middle and lower income to continue to give a temporary tax credit. The authors made this a temporary deal for 10 years. It's gone beyond the decade. It did not stimulate the economy. They did not hire people with the money. And it's time to let that expire as the authors originally desired.
All right,
oh, my
Lars.
Goodness. Listen, this is what's crazy. The president has never advanced a plan. That's number one. Number two, transparent. He's so transparent, he's practically opaque. You can't see anything this guy does. He's done so much behind closed doors. Finally, as far as fair, if the top 10% pays 65% of the bill, that's not fair enough. If you went back and did 100% confiscatory tax on the top 2% of Americans, it still wouldn't fill the hole that President Obama has created with this $1.4 trillion deficit. It just doesn't pencil out, Leslie.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just going through some of these other comments from Jay Carney moments ago. And basically, he has said that the president will go for a deal that does not have any increase in taxes. He says, we understand that we won't get the exact bill that we want. So this is a huge concession, is it not? And are we not seeing the tremendous influence of the Tea Party in this decision, Leslie? Because the president is now indicating through his press secretary that he'll go for a deal that actually does not have the kind of balance that he spoke about so many times last night.
Well, I actually don't think that's the smart way to go. I mean, one, he's hurting himself not only for a bit of in re-election because it's dividing the Democrats. I have fellow Democrats that are arguing with me on this issue now. In addition, you have plans like Social Security that have a surplus, don't contribute to the deficit, fully solvent for the next 10 years. That's on the table. Huge cuts to Medicare that people don't want. And wait a minute,
Leslie, that's
Lars.
a lie.
In addition, the bottom line is Americans want this debt ceiling raised. They do want the budget balanced. You can't do all of this by next week, and they want jobs. Where is the jobs bill from the Republican? That's a specific I would like to see.
Leslie, first of all, on Social Security this year took $59 billion out of the budget because they are now running at a deficit. It's small compared to where it's going to be, but it is not revenue positive. Secondly, when you say it's not smart, is it smart to take this economy that stinks already and shows no signs of the summer of recovery we were supposed to have seen a year ago and say, let's load some more taxes on top of it because we have to make sure the government class can have its limousines that Obama's expanded, raises for White House staff, and every other federal program on the planet? I'll tell you what, get rid of the Department of Education. That would save $1 trillion over 10 years, and they don't do diddly for education in America.
I do want to get back to, and by the way, the phones, we continue to get these reports that the phones are ringing off the hooks, particularly in Senate offices this afternoon. And the mix, we're trying to figure out exactly what the folks are saying who are calling in. But there's definitely support for the president in terms of what he said last night. There's also people who just want to get some kind of deal done that we're hearing from as well, or that they're hearing from in Senate. Also, a lot of support for cap and balance. So it's a mixed bag, as you would expect.
Well,
but go ahead, Lars, respond to that.
Well, consider this, though. Rasmussen polls, it's a pretty much down-the-middle poll, not left or right, says that about 60+% of Americans support cut, cap, and balance. And if you look at the people who think the Congress will cut too much or the Congress is cutting too little, the ones who think Congress is cutting too little number above 60%. The ones who fear that Congress will cut too much is only 25%. That's the president's position. The president's position all along has been don't cut, raise taxes, increase the deficit.
And that's what I want to close on here, and I want to get a thought from both of you, and we'll start with Leslie on this. When you look back, Leslie, the president wanted a clean hike in the debt ceiling, okay? He didn't want to do it with any spending cuts. He now looks like he's going to, come full circle and end up with a hike in the debt ceiling that is all built on spending cuts with absolutely no revenue. And I don't think you can understate that. This is a huge. So what does it say to you? And I know you say you don't agree with his capitulation on that, but what does it say to you about his leadership and how the president is doing?
Well, I say that the president's a bigger man than I. Obviously, I am a woman, but I mean in the sense of compromise. Because the best negotiation is with both parties leave the room winning and losing in a sense because you leave things on the table.
But apparently they're compromising him. Leslie, but apparently they're compromising and they're leaving him completely out of it.
Yep.
But I don't feel that the president's being left completely out of it. I did agree that this should have been a clean raising of the debt ceiling, move on to the budget later. I think that would have been best for America and for both sides to come up with a plan that they didn't just put a Band-Aid on, which I think this is going to do. There's going to be a temporary fix, which I don't think is in the best interest of the economy or the American people.
More borrowing and more debt is not what America needs, and the president is being dragged to that position, kicking and screaming. God bless the Tea Party for doing it. This is a man who has not advanced a plan. He has not suggested anything. He's managed to just act petulant and angry and pop up on TV every 2 hours.
All right. Thanks to both of you. Big developments this afternoon, folks, so keep watching this because we're getting somewhere in some resolution on all of this. Leslie and Lars, thank you very much. Always good to see you both.